I never imagined handing over my house keys would become the strangest demand of my 63 years. Picture a 10-acre ranch in the Texas Hill Country, rolling pastures edged by live oaks that have stood since before the Civil War, their gnarled branches twisting like old men's fingers reaching for the sky. A red brick home my uncle built with his own hands using bricks fired in a local kiln back in the 70s. Mortar mixed with sand from the creek that still runs clear after spring rains. And a gravel drive that curves like a lazy river through patches of bluebonnets in March and Indian paintbrush in May. That is Willow Creek Ranch, my inheritance from Uncle Raymond, sitting proud and private outside any HOA boundary, with a windmill creaking in the breeze like a faithful old dog, its tail pointing true north no matter the storm, and a vegetable garden where beefsteak tomatoes hang heavy as promises and Roma vines twist up bamboo stakes I cut myself from the creek bank. But one Saturday morning in early June, as I watered the beds with a hose that had seen better decades and savored the scent of fresh-cut Bermuda grass mixed with the earthy tang of turned soil and the faint sweetness of honeysuckle climbing the fence, a silver luxury SUV roared up my driveway, gravel spitting like buckshot from under Michelin tires that cost more than my first truck. Out stepped Victoria Langford, 58-year-old president of Oak Ridge Estates HOA, white blazer crisp as a new dollar bill pressed under a hotel iron, dark sunglasses hiding eyes that burned with the certainty of someone who had never lost an argument in her life. Not to a spouse, not to a board, not to reality itself. She pointed straight at me, manicured nail polished the color of fresh blood, and declared in a voice that could slice through steel and leave it bleeding. I'm Victoria Langford, and I'm the new owner of this property. Hand over the keys now. My name is Harold Jenkins, retired civil engineer, 35 years designing county roads that held through floods and freezes that turned creeks into raging brown torrents, bridges that spanned those same creeks with rebar thick as my wrist, and concrete poured in the dead of night to beat the heat, and drainage systems that kept subdivisions from becoming lakes during hurricanes that howled like banshees off the Gulf. I figured retirement meant coffee on the porch swing my wife Ellen and I installed the first week we moved in after her passing, the wood still holding the scent of the cedar we milled ourselves, grandkids chasing fireflies until the jars glowed like lanterns and their laughter echoed off the barn my uncle and I raised in '82, and the low hum of cicadas at dusk syncing with the creak of the old windmill that pumped water for the cattle long gone, but the memories still fresh. Instead, I got Victoria claiming my home was hers because some phantom realtor sold it to her in a closing she attended alone in a strip mall office with fluorescent lights buzzing like angry hornets, wired funds to an escrow account that existed only on paper and in the fevered imagination of a con artist. What unfolded was a whirlwind of forged deeds, frantic 911 calls, hammered mailbox plates that dented federal property, private security goons in black SUVs, shredded documents in midnight bonfires, and a scam that nearly swallowed us both. Exposing layers of fraud that reached from local real estate offices with faded for sale signs to offshore banks in the Caymans where the money laundered through cryptocurrency wallets that changed addresses faster than a jackrabbit. Stick around. This tale has more twists than a hill country backroad in a thunderstorm, high-stakes moments that will keep you on the edge of your seat, and enough moral gray areas to spark debates that last longer than a summer drought. The sun hung low that morning, painting the brick walls in warm amber hues that made the old mortar lines stand out like veins on a hard-working hand. The kind of light that turns dust motes into gold flecks dancing in the air, when Victoria's SUV screeched to a halt right in front of my 1985 Ford F-150, its faded blue paint chipped from decades of hauling hay bales and fence posts, dust settling on the hood like a bad omen from a Western movie. The engine ticked as it cooled, a sharp metallic sound contrasting the peaceful chirp of sparrows in the oaks and the distant low of a neighbor's cattle. I set the hose down, water pooling around my worn leather boots, the kind that had walked job sites from Houston to Lubbock, soles cracked, but still gripping like they remembered every gravel road, and wiped my hands on faded Wranglers streaked with garden soil and the faint green stain of tomato leaves. "Morning, ma'am," I said, keeping my voice even. Engineer's habit, measure twice before you speak once, especially when the ground feels like it's shifting under you and you're not sure if it's an earthquake or just your blood pressure. She ignored the greeting entirely, heels clicking like a metronome set to war on the gravel path I'd raked smooth just yesterday with a bow rake my uncle left me, the tines worn but true. "Harold Jenkins?" she asked, though it wasn't really a question, more an accusation wrapped in certainty. Her perfume, a sharp floral that clashed with the honest smell of turned earth and horse manure from the neighbor's pasture, wafting over like an invading army. I nodded slowly, buying time to size her up. Mid-50s, hair dyed a shade too perfect, blazer tailored to hide the softness of desk work, sunglasses that cost more than my monthly grocery bill. "That's me. And this is my ranch." Her lips curled into a tight smile, the kind you see on folks who've never been told no, who mistake compliance for respect and silence for surrender. Not anymore. Closing finalized yesterday through escrow. I'm here for immediate possession. She produced a leather folio from her designer bag that probably held a wallet thicker than my deed folder, papers rustling like dry leaves in a fall wind that hadn't arrived yet. I caught a glimpse, my address in bold at the top, but the header looked off, font too modern for county records, seal smudged like it had been photocopied one too many times on a machine running low on toner. 35 years reading blueprints, surveying plats with a transit level under the blazing sun, and spotting forged signatures on change orders that could collapse a bridge taught me when lines don't align, when something's been faked to fool the untrained eye or the overworked clerk. Mind if I see those? I asked, extending a calloused hand rough from years of gripping rebar and shovel handles. She clutched them tighter against her blazer, the fabric straining slightly over her shoulders that had never known the weight of a hard hat. Keys first. HOA protocol for transfer of possession. I almost laughed, the absurdity hitting like a cold splash from the hose that had soaked my boot toes. Ma'am, this ranch isn't in Oak Ridge Estates. Hasn't been for 40 years, since before the subdivision even broke ground with its cookie-cutter homes and identical mailboxes. Victoria's chin lifted another inch, her perfume intensifying as she stepped closer. The board voted to annex for aesthetic uniformity and management efficiency. Your red brick clashes with our white trim standards. That gravel drive is a visual disruption from the community entrance, and frankly, that windmill is an eyesore. I stared, the hose dripping forgotten at my feet, forming a small mud puddle that reflected the blue sky and a single white cloud drifting lazy. You voted to steal my land. My voice stayed level, but inside, anger simmered like coffee left too long on the burner, bubbling up in frothy bursts. She shrugged, a small, elegant motion that dismissed 40 years of family history, sweat equity, and the grave of my uncle under the pecan tree by the creek. Annexation ensures cohesive development. Your property was inconsistent with community vision. My pulse quickened, blood pressure rising the way it did on job sites when a contractor cut corners on rebar or a county inspector missed a load-bearing crack. But I kept it cool. Years of mediating between county commissioners who wanted roads cheap and landowners who wanted them perfect teaching me that the first to lose composure usually loses the case, the contract, or the courthouse steps. Show me the annexation filing, the public hearing notice, the zoning change approval, the environmental impact study for creek proximity. Her eyes flickered, just a fraction, but enough for a man who'd read 1,000 faces across negotiation tables. It's processing with the county planning department. Translation, it didn't exist, and she knew it, or hoped the bluff would hold long enough to bully me into submission. I stepped closer, boots crunching gravel that I'd spread myself last fall with a rented dump truck. Victoria, this is private property. Deeds inside, notarized by the same clerk who handled my uncle's will, filed with the county, taxes paid through next year with the receipt in my safe. You've been had by whoever took your money, and if you're smart, you'll cut your losses and chase the scammer instead of harassing a retiree on his own porch. Her face reddened, a vein throbbing at her temple like a warning light on a dashboard about to overheat. Don't patronize me. I wired the funds myself, $650,000 to escrow through Margaret Hale Realty. Vanessa Klein handled the details, walked me through every form. Margaret Hale, my uncle's realtor, the one who helped transfer the title to me after his passing with a handshake and a cup of weak coffee in her office that smelled of old paper and peppermint gum, retired to Arizona 5 years ago with a bad hip, a fondness for bingo, and a photo of her grandkids on the desk. Alarm bells clanged louder than the windmill in a gust that suddenly picked up, rattling the tail. Margaret's gone, I said. Vanessa Klein? Never heard of her. You wired money to a ghost, and now you're trespassing on my land, trying to collect. Victoria's hand shot to her phone, thumb flying across the screen as she started filming, the red record light blinking like an angry eye in the morning light. Caught on camera, the squatter intimidating the rightful owner, refusing to vacate, making threats. She narrated like a bad cop show on late-night TV, documenting unauthorized structures, personal effects left by trespasser, potential damage to HOA property, violations of Design Code Section 4.2 subsection garden overreach. She paced my yard, heels stabbing the dirt I'd tilled with a rototiller my uncle bought in '88, photographing my windmill with its rusted tail that still pointed true north no matter the storm, my mailbox shaped like a longhorn steer my uncle welded in '85 from scrap metal after a branding. Even my vegetable patch where beefsteak tomatoes hung heavy and Roma vines twisted up bamboo stakes I'd cut myself from the creek bank with a bow saw that still hung in the barn. HOA code violations, she muttered loud enough for the camera, her voice rising with each step. Garden exceeds allowable footprint by 150 square feet. Non-approved plant varieties including heirloom tomatoes not on the pre-approved list. Unauthorized irrigation system with non-drip hoses. Potential water waste violation. My patience, built over decades of dealing with bureaucratic delays on road projects, incompetent subcontractors who poured concrete too thin, and county inspectors who missed cracks wide enough to swallow a boot, finally cracked like dry clay under a boot heel in July heat. I took a slow breath, the kind you take before signing off on a bridge load test that could send tons of steel crashing if you're wrong. Inside for paperwork. Don't touch my tools, don't move the hose, don't step in the tomatoes. I'll be right back. She sneered, still filming, phone propped on my truck hood like a news crew. Run if you want, but this will be reported as interference with lawful possession and potential flight risk from the scene. I didn't reply, just walked inside, the screen door slapping shut behind me with a familiar whack that echoed my frustration across the living room, where Ellen's quilt still hung on the wall, faded but warm. The house smelled of coffee and lemon polish. Ellen's touch even after 10 years gone from the cancer that took her quick but left the memories slow to fade. In the study, the old safe. Combination my birthday and hers, the numbers worn smooth from use. Yielded treasures. Deed in my name with county stamp crisp as the day it was filed. Uncles will handwritten on yellow legal paper with a fountain pen that skipped on the T's, tax receipts stacked neat as bricks in a wall, photos of us building the barn in '82, sweat-stained and grinning under hard hats. Proof this land was blood and memory and the sweat of 2 generations. I grabbed the folder, thick with history, and stepped back out, the screen door whacking again like punctuation. Victoria stood by my truck, phone propped on the hood like a news crew, narrating. Squatter's vehicle, unauthorized parking on HOA grass, potential oil leak violation, non-compliant license plate frame. I held up the folder. Deed, taxes, proof. Margaret Hale retired 5 years ago to Arizona. Bad hip, bingo nights. Vanessa Klein? Fake name, fake realtor. You wired money to a ghost, and now you're trespassing on my land, trying to collect a debt that doesn't exist. She didn't glance, eyes fixed on her screen, thumbs typing comments or captions, or whatever delusion she was feeding. Forged. My realtor assured legitimacy. Closing documents signed in person, funds transferred via secure wire confirmed by the bank. The name Margaret hit again like a second punch. Call her, I said. I have her number from when she handled my uncle's estate. Victoria's finger hovered over the dial, then pulled back. Liar. You're stalling. Sirens approached, slow and deliberate, the sound that says someone's about to learn a hard lesson in a language they can't argue with. 2 cruisers crunched gravel, lights swirling red and blue against the morning sun that now felt too bright, too exposing, turning the dust into a haze of gold. Neighbors peeked from behind manicured hedges in Oak Ridge, phones out, ready for the show that would be dinner conversation for weeks. Lieutenant Mark Riley stepped out first, graying temples under his Stetson, uniform pressed with creases sharp enough to cut paper. The kind of calm that comes from 28 years breaking up bar fights at the county fair and talking down domestics where the only weapon is words. Deputy Sarah Ruiz followed, ponytail swinging, notebook ready, boots polished but scuffed from real work. Victoria sprinted over, heels stabbing dirt like tiny daggers. Officers. Thank goodness. This man broke into my property, refuses to leave, threatens me with forged papers. Riley sighed, the sound of a man who'd seen this movie before and knew the ending. Ma'am, start from the beginning, slow. She launched, closing, escrow, lawful order, squatter, intimidation. I waited on the porch, folder in hand, coffee cooling. Riley turned. Mr. Jenkins, Harold Jenkins. Inherited last year from Uncle Raymond. Deed, taxes, county letter, photos of us building the barn. He scanned, eyes narrowing in approval, the way mine did when a load test passed with flying colors. Checks out. County stamp fresh. Victoria crossed arms, blazer wrinkling. He forged it. My realtor Vanessa Klein, Sarah, documents. At home, but I can. Riley closed my folder. County shows Jenkins owner. You may be fraud victim, ma'am. File report. Her laugh shrill as a busted fan belt. A scam? I'm HOA president. I don't get scammed. Sarah, even presidents do. Happens more than you think. Victoria's eyes blazed. You're protecting him. He's your buddy. I spoke. Victoria, go after the scammer. I'll even give you Margaret's real number. She lunged for my folder, nails scraping paper. Riley blocked, firm but gentle. Enough. Victoria shrieked. This is my home. I paid for it. Deputies escorted her out, her heels dragging furrows in the gravel. As her SUV roared away, tires spinning dust clouds that hung in the air like smoke after a battle, Riley warned, she's unstable. Call if she returns. And get that garden hose off the drive, tripping hazard. I chuckled despite everything. Will do, Lieutenant. Dust settled. My ranch felt violated. The garden trampled where her heels dug in like spiteful spikes, tomato leaves crushed, a few fruits split open red as her face. I photographed footprints, heel marks, saved her video from my security cam mounted under the eave since a coyote problem last year. Evidence for the file I was already building in my head. The hose still dripped, a steady plink into the puddle that reflected the sky and my boots. I turned it off, coiled it neat on the hook my uncle installed with a drill that still hung in the barn, and went inside to brew fresh coffee. The day had barely started, and already the peace I'd earned felt like a distant memory, replaced by the low hum of vigilance. The scam unraveled fast, but not without Victoria digging the hole deeper with every shovel of denial. Riley called the next day while I was repairing the garden fence where her SUV bumper had clipped a post. Vanessa Klein, burner phone, no real estate license, no business registration in the state. Margaret Hale confirmed retired to Arizona. Bad hip, plays bingo Tuesdays and Thursdays. Victoria had wired $650,000 to a ghost account that bounced through 3 banks before vanishing into cryptocurrency. She didn't stop harassing. Violation notices taped to my mailbox like flyers for a yard sale from hell. Unauthorized windmill height exceeding 25 feet. Non-compliant garden beds with unapproved soil amendments. Aesthetic disruption from gravel drive lacking HOA-approved asphalt overlay. I photographed each, time-stamped, filed harassment with Riley who sighed over the phone. She's building a paper trail of her own crazy. Friday morning, 4 HOA trucks rolled in like an invasion force. Mowers humming, clippers gleaming. Compliance review team, painted on the doors in green letters that matched Victoria's blazer. She led from her SUV, clipboard gleaming like a sword fresh from the forge, sunglasses reflecting my porch like twin accusations. Step aside, Jenkins. Enforcing standards on annexed property. The workers looked sheepish, one young guy in a neon vest whispering to his buddy. This the place outside the boundary, right? Victoria overheard. Quiet. Annexation pending county approval. I blocked the gate with my body, arms crossed. The same stance I used when a contractor tried to pour concrete in the rain. No jurisdiction. Leave. She smirked, lips thin as a razor. We'll see. I dialed Riley on speaker. HOA trucks on my land, claiming annexation. Sirens wailed within minutes. Trucks retreated, workers apologizing under breath. Didn't sign up for this. Victoria screamed after them. You're fired. But they kept going, dust clouds in their wake. Victoria's meltdown peaked Sunday. The Lord's Day turned profane. I woke to hammering, sharp, frantic bangs that echoed off the barn like gunshots. Barefoot, blouse untucked, hair wild as a dust devil, Victoria hammered a metal plate into my mailbox. Oak Ridge HOA property. No trespassing. Blood dripped from a clipped finger, but she swung again. Reclaiming my land. Hammer missed, dented the post. I called 911. She accused weapons, threats. Deputies, Riley, Ruiz, backup, arrived to chaos. Victoria lunged, nails raking air. Cuffs clicked. Trespass, vandalism, harassment. My home, she wailed, mascara rivers, knees scraping gravel as deputies lifted her. Mental health hold ordered, 72 hours minimum. Charges filed, criminal trespass, vandalism of federal mail property, disturbing peace. Diversion program, mandatory therapy 3 times weekly, 200 hours community service at the senior center serving meals to folks she'd once fined for unesthetic, lawn gnomes, 2-year no-contact order with me and the ranch. FBI froze $142,000 from the scam ring. Lead alias Missy Franklin, wanted in 3 states for similar cons targeting retirees with lakefront dreams. Oak Ridge HOA censured Victoria in a packed meeting. New board elected. Handwritten apology delivered by Laura Mendoza with a pecan pie still warm from the oven. We're ashamed, she said. I accepted pie, not apology, actions speak. I replaced fence posts, poured concrete footings deep as my convictions, strung new barbed wire that glinted in the sun. Added a cedar sign, letters burned with a wood iron my granddad used. Respect the line. Not grand, not petty. True. Mornings, I walk the boundary, coffee in a tin mug Ellen painted with bluebonnets, checking posts, listening to the windmill creak its steady song. Grandkids visit, picking tomatoes, asking about the crazy lady with the hammer. I tell them truth stands taller than noise, patience outlasts tantrums. Victoria's note arrived months later. I'm sorry, in shaky blue ink on plain paper, no letterhead, no excuses. Framed beside the deed, reminder that pride breaks, but humility rebuilds. She completed diversion, moved to a condo in Austin. Rumor says volunteers at the food bank now, serving without a clipboard. FBI closed the ring, $2.1 million recovered across victims. My share? I donated to the local legal aid for seniors facing HOA bullies. The gate stays open for friends, closed to folly. I unlock nothing, the line holds. What about you? When does defending home cross aggression? Was Victoria villain or victim of pride? Mental health over punishment, or both? Share HOA horrors or justice views below. Debate the line, your story matters.